All right.
Okay.
Let's see. Come over this way just a tad. There we go. Okay. So we're starting with the, which one?
The wellness routine.
All right. Welcome back to Therapy Matters. We are glad you stopped by our page. We have spring in the air. It's everywhere.
Yes.
It's starting to sort of percolate through pollen, which has, I don't know, I don't think I have allergies, but it feels like I do sometimes. But spring is a whole new set of weather. It's a whole new set of issues, and a lot of people are excited and energetic. But what are some mental wellness things that people should be aware of
in the springtime?
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things that's most important to note is that we're getting a lot more sunlight. And some people know, some people don't, that we get sunlight coming in quicker towards the equinoxes and not as quick towards the solstices. Like the sunlight grows more each day when we're closer to the equinoxes than when we're at the solstices. So we feel the change more dramatically. And there are physiological effects that come with this. Gastrointestinal kind of physiological effects can come with spring or towards the equinoxes. And some folks have cited that migraines can increase sometimes this time of year. And so, yeah, me too. And so it's just noting what that does. So for some folks, it will shift their moods. And most people feel like they should feel better in the spring because they're getting more sunlight and they're getting outdoors. And I think that's definitely true for a large number of people. And yet there's others that might actually feel overwhelmed or anxious. Sunlight is a little like caffeine sometimes. And so we can feel a little overwhelmed with it, and the sunlight comes so quick at this time of year that all of a sudden we go from being kind of hibernating in winter to like, okay, we should be outside, it's sunny, and it's sunny late, and then we have the time change, and there's just all the more of that feeling, and I think our systems take a little while to catch up, so it can feel a little disjointed for folks. And then on top of that, I think, we're learning more and more about how depression or mood is affected by inflammation these days, and specifically pollen can have an impact on people's mood. They haven't figured out exactly, what the causative factors are, but some argue that it is inflammation based, and so sometimes people can actually fall into a spring depression, which
Weird.
Again, yeah, exactly. It feels so
very
odd.
confusing.
Yeah, it is super confusing. And I think especially when we don't have a reason, we can't figure out a reason for our suffering, we suffer more, right? We have this sense that we shouldn't, that we must be broken if we're suffering at this time of year. But it's not at all uncommon that folks will feel really tired and feel really lethargic, and sometimes that can just bring our mood state down.
Right.
But then also that inflammation that we don't know enough about yet, but we're learning more and more each day.
So when people notice those things, what are some actions that they can do to calm the inflammation or deal with the mood swings or head off the headaches?
Yeah. Well, I certainly think you can talk to your doctor about allergies and see if, you do have allergies. If
you can develop them as an adult, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so talking to your doctor about your allergies and seeing if there's a way that they can keep those under control. If you notice actual inflammation, like I've even noticed this year that I have inflammation in some of my joints, which I thought was odd. But so, if that's the case, if you're having clear inflammation that you can tell is inflammation, then talking to your doctor about maybe just taking some anti-inflammation medications such as the NSAIDs could be useful.
Nice.
Yeah.
What kinds of things are you doing here at Therapy Matters? I know you have a couple of programs that are coming up this spring.
I do.
We're doing the walk.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Cut and you're like, wait a minute.
Sorry.
I know one of the things that you do here at Therapy Matters is ecotherapy and a couple of different ways to help people connect to outside. How does that how does that play into sort of the spring season and all that?
Yeah. Well, given this, what we just discussed about the inflammation and pollen and such, I'd like to keep that in mind. And so when, going outside and stuff, I personally, I will spray down the tables and the surfaces with a hose, so there's not as much pollen in the air. So addressing that. But I think one thing that's helpful is just getting back into the garden, turning up the dirt, smelling some of that earth. There's natural biomes in the dirt that serve as an antidepressant to us. And I think that's why we feel so much better when we can smell spring coming our way. So I think getting out there doing that. We have a mindfulness walk coming up, where it's just getting out to nature and spending time noticing, just being there and being present with the 5 senses, just noticing what you're seeing, what you're hearing, what you feel, like sense of touch, and, even taste, from the garden, and, just overall using all of your senses, especially your sense of smell, and getting out there and staying present.
Is there any science behind that fad of grounding? Have you heard of that, where people will purposely like make sure that they're walking barefoot on the grass or on the ground? Or
I think it depends on the individual, but I think if one's open to that feeling, I absolutely believe there's a basis in feeling like we're grounded by having our feet attached to the ground. In particular, I like one visualization where you'll almost put you'll put your feet on the ground. You almost imagine roots growing from your feet and stabilizing your core. And so sometimes just seeing that visualization, you might even notice that your body becomes more steady and less wavering, kind of like a tree. Yeah. Right. And so those are some nice, that's a nice mindfulness and visualization to be present and be right where you are, and also to ground your system.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, tune back in next time.
Thank you.